We're in the mountains on a little weekend getaway, getting ready to do a little hiking. And while I'm waiting on my wife to get ready, I thought I'd come out here and answer another question and do it in a better setting, hopefully with more light than my back porch. So I get a lot of questions now with all the newbies, as they like to say, people coming to my channel about people are shocked that when I mentioned that the Sasquatch visited my house and did for several years. And I live in a small rural neighborhood. It's a city, a small city, but you know, I live in a neighborhood. Now, you can take a stone's throw and hit farmland, and I'm not far from a river. So yes, I'm in a neighborhood, but it's not like, you know, downtown Chicago neighborhood. It's a rural small town about 30 miles from the Smoky Mountain Park, and you know, we've got all kinds of good stuff, lakes, rivers, and mountains, and so I live in what I think is one of the best places in the world to live. But what people need to understand is when you start researching these things, that usually about a year to 2 years into it, if you're seriously into it and you're actually finding these things and they're interacting with you, they will follow you home. You give them permission. The act of seeking them out and consciously wanting to have an encounter with them is a way that it's one of their rules. And when you do that, then you give them permission to follow you home. And you know, ignorance no excuse for the law, so to speak. So you know, you don't have to know the rule. It's the fact that you sought them out. You gave them permission to follow you home, and they will, and they do. And it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, I've had people in apartment complexes in big cities say, you know, they came out of their apartment and it was standing, you know, across the parking lot and beside the dumpster. So, you know, I'm not here to explain it or tell you how they do it. I have theories, but that's all they are, is theories. All I can tell you is they showed up at my house. They left footprints. They ate dog food, and I proved that. I mean, I literally would take the dog food, had a dog food, had a tub. We had outside dogs, and we kept the dog food in that tub. And of course, it had a snap lid on it, so nothing could get into it. You know, you had to unsnap it, unsecure it to open it. And the dog food started going down really fast. You know, where a 25-pound bag would last 2 weeks, it was only lasting a week. And so I got to looking, and so I just I leveled it out, and I took a pencil and I marked the inside and snapped it shut. And then the next morning when we went out, the dog food was down about an inch. Now it was leveled back out, but it was down an inch. And then I'll show pictures of it, but basically they were coming in the backyard, reaching over on the deck, pulling it over, eating, snapping the lid back on, leveling it back out, and pushing it back over. And I actually got audio of them doing this, and then I had a run in the middle of my backyard, so I put the dogs all on one side and kept them off the side, you know, where the deck was, and they were coming in. And then I took a rake and I scratched up where you have old red clay, and I was trying to get the grass to grow, but it was still just dirt. So I raked that up into big, thick clods, and no one was over there. And in about a 2-week span, where they would come up and stand on the edge of the deck and reach over, they started smashing down the clods and smoothed it out and made it nice and, you know, level and hard. And it wasn't my dogs and it wasn't me. I had a fenced-in locked backyard. So, you know, that was a low-tech way to show that they were coming in and getting the food. Plus, I did record it. I put trail camera after trail camera. I got some trail camera. Most of the time, they just walk up beside the trail camera and lay it down, no matter where I mounted it. And I mean, one time I mounted it in the wood pile, and it was thrown out in the middle of the yard. So, you know, they know immediately where the trail camera is. They know what they are, and they know, you know, just they're smarter than me and you, so they know how to walk up, sneak around behind it, and lay it down. So, I mean, I got some eye shine, and I got some, like, faces stuck right in it, but nothing, you know, to write home about. But anyway, so, you know, for many, they would drink the dog water, they'd leave gifts, they do the 3-in-1 pattern, You know, that one time I was talking about, they got upset because I rearranged and cleaned off the deck and moved the food too far away. They couldn't reach it, and then they started just doing weird stuff. They did the feathers in the driveway. They started leaving bones. I mean, like they were getting bones out of people's garbages, but they were leaving like pork chop bones and stuff, you know, stacked up, you know, on the rail of the deck, you know, stuff like that, crazy stuff. And they started beating on the side of the house, slapping the house. There was one incident where they actually had a robin's nest in the corner in the where the gutter came down, and it was one of those deals where springtime and we had the babies. We went out and looked, and they were chirping, all was great. And then we went by a couple days later, went around, we didn't hear the robins chirping, and looked up and the nest was gone. And then a house, you know, it was aluminum siding, had been painted and it oxidized. And you know, I found out that oxidation is a really good way to get fingerprints and hairprints from a Sasquatch. But you could see where the Sasquatch, one had leaned up against the side of the house and the other had climbed up on his shoulder, and they'd ate the birds and knocked the nest out. And I mean, there's a handprint and there's actually a shoulder print, and where it leaned its shoulder up against the side of the house, and you can actually see the hair, you know, in the siding there where the oxidized paint, it just picked it right up like a fingerprint. So, you know, this craziness went on in my house for several years, and that's one, you know, and once I just finally came to my conclusion of what they were, you know, I stopped researching as far as actively going after them. And you know, for those that aren't Christians, you may not understand, but I prayed and rebuked them and called on the name of Jesus and His power to protect my home and to keep them away, and it worked. Every time we tried that, it's worked. You know, people can, you know, wrinkle their nose at that and say, well, that's a bunch of, you know, crock of crap, and that's fine. But all I can tell you is it worked for me, and I've got several other people with testimonies where it's worked for them. And so I've only, you know, I'd say it's worked 100% of the time. There's one case where it's not worked, and but that's it. And this is a real unusual case. And so anyway, you know, so that's what's going on at the backyard, and I know a lot of people are going to be shocked by that, and I ain't going to be able to believe that, but you got to understand, you don't understand the rules of these things, and you can never say never with these things. When someone gets on my channel or someone sends me an email and says, well, I just know. No, you don't know. You don't have a clue, right? You just don't know. I don't care how many degrees you have, whether you're a doctor or whatever. You don't know. You don't know what they're going to do, where they're going to do, and why they're going to do it. And so don't send me an email telling me, because, you know, and if you don't want to believe it, that's fine. I really don't care. But for those who are interested, you know, that's what was going on at my house. Real quick, even in summer of 2012, it got crazy around my house, and there was a juvenile about my height, and the next door neighbor saw him. He was literally in a tree, and it was in April. They had just done a cookout. I was not home. The Sasquatch was about 15 foot up in the tree watching him, and my neighbor's wife said, there's somebody in that tree. And my neighbor he's a policeman, so he went and got his gun and his flashlight, and came back out and did the policeman thing and said, oh, come down. And this thing, they called it a black kid in a black hoodie, jumped out of the tree 15 feet, hit the ground running. And then in August, I'd come back. It just turned dark. I'd made a store run, and the policemen were in my driveway. There was two of them, lights flashing, everybody's radios going off. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, the lady categoring to you had a prowler run by her pool, and he jumped the fence and then ran through your driveway and out. And I said, well, I said, you got a description? They said, yeah, it's a black kid, about 6'4", 6'3", 250 pounds, in a hoodie, in a black hoodie. And so the next morning I went and talked to the neighbor, and she said, well, it got my dogs all tore up, and I came out on my deck, and I got some movement. I looked to my left, and there she used the word it, was crouched. And she said, it was sitting there for a minute, and she said, I went to the door of she had a screened-in back porch that had steps that went down. When she opened and looked, she said it stood up and ran around the side of my pool like a hurdler, went over my fence, then your fence, and then around your driveway and through the neighborhood. She said, just took off. She said, unbelievably fast. And I said, it, hon. She said, oh, that little boy. You know, we got this little black boy in the neighborhood. It's, you know, he wears a black hoodie. And, you know, and he likes to, you know, he's been prowling around. He's, you know, he's a peeping Tom. The little girl up the street, there was a 16-year-old girl that lived 4 houses up from me. And apparently, I didn't know this, but the neighbors in the street behind me, this little black kid in the black hoodie had been climbing up a cedar tree and peering in her window at her more than once, and they called the police on him. I did check, and there had been a prowler reported several times in the neighborhood. It didn't really say, because they call the police and they go out, so the police record just showed a prowler calls, you know, and then the police would write back nothing. Now, there was a police report on the again on the prowler where they came to my house, but it was, you know, pretty much police report. Lady reported a black male, 6'3", 6'4", 200, you know, sometime between 200 and 250. She said 250 pounds, 225 pounds, she couldn't tell. And so, of course, I didn't say anything because I didn't want, number one, to make my neighbors mad, because I was the reason these things were coming around the house, and the fact that, you know, I'm 6'3", 225, so I don't want them to think I was doing it. So anyway, so that was the craziness that was happening around my house for a few years. And yeah, like I said, I lived in a small neighborhood, in a neighborhood, you know, in a small town. So, you know, you just never know about these things. Like I said, their ways are not our ways. They have a rule set and a morality that's different than ours, and they follow their own, do their own thing. And we get in the way, oh well. So anyway, that's the explanation of the backyard stuff, and I hope for aesthetics, this background here, we're in a little isolated neighborhood, I guess, on the edge of the park's right up through there. So, and these are nice little cabins. It's a little getaway. It's real cheap. It's cheaper than a hotel room to rent these things for a weekend. So come up here and we can relax and go hike and enjoy ourselves, and not have to worry about anything. So anyway, so I will sign off for now, and hope that does a little bit of explaining. And if you have any questions, keep them coming. If you know, the main brunt of Steve sending people to my channel is for information and for help. And I've started a little site called the Sasquatch Awareness Project, and I started it a long time ago, and it's not getting a lot of publicity, but that's fine. Steve's got his project, you know, that I'm going to work with him on, and that'll be the main thing. But in the meantime, if you got questions or anything, or about what they are, or about my observations, you can go, I'll post the link in the video, and you can go. It's called the Sasquatch Awareness Project, and I just kind of answer the basic questions, and it's kind of, you know, a first step into helping people. And you can also send me emails. My email, bf.field.journal@gmail.com. I'll put that link in there too. If you need help, if you've seen these things and are having issues and trouble with them, you know, just need to tell your side of it. Tell your story. You know, I don't even like story. Tell your encounter. Tell what happened to you. And I'll be glad to listen. And I'm definitely no expert, and I don't have any degrees in psychology or any other, you know, anything like that, but I definitely will listen. And I mean, I've had experiences, and I can definitely relate to a lot of things that people have had happen to them. So if you need help, if you're having trouble dealing with some encounters you've had or ongoing problems with these things, just let us know, and we'll do the best we can to help you. Because it's all about helping people, you know, and you know, moving forward and getting out of the, you know, the circle, you know, and chasing tree breaks and stuff. So anyway, I'll stop rambling, as other friends of mine are fond to say, and the dog's about to lose her mind. We're getting ready to go on a hike, and she knows it. So I'll sign off, and y'all be safe out there, and we'll talk to you later.